Throughout existence, you will be confronted by quite challenging situations. You may be facing some of them right now. It is crucial to understand that this is not an exclusive experience of yours, it is a normal occurrence that affects all of us. Unfortunately, the illusion is common that life should consist only of joyful and fun moments, deceiving ourselves and building a fictional reality. Even if we are reluctant and try to avoid, we will inevitably be faced with a situation that will test our limits. Facing this in a positive way, as human beings we possess the ability to manage, to a greater or lesser extent, the emotions we experience. We can meet challenges effectively and minimize suffering. However, it is important to recognize that although we have this ability, it is not an easy task. Throughout life, we rarely receive guidance on how to manage our emotions properly. That's why I'm sharing this video today, addressing the virtue of temperance, one of the 4 Stoic virtues. Let me tell you an exemplary story. Once a king summoned the wise men of his court and ordered the making of a precious ring, adorned with a diamond, to one of the best goldsmiths in the region. The monarch expressed a desire to hide significant words inside the ring, words that could serve him in difficult moments. He aspired to a message that could be a source of comfort in desperate situations, and that would also benefit future generations, including their heirs and descendants. The challenge was to craft a message concise enough to fit over the ring's diamond, while still conveying valuable wisdom. The sages, despite their erudition and abilities, coped with the difficulty of the task. Although they could have written extensive treatises, the requirement of a brief message, consisting of 2 or 3 words, that would fit on a diamond, proved to be a complex quest. Even so, they devoted hours to researching their philosophy books, without finding something that fit perfectly. The powerful king's longings involved the search for a valuable message to face challenging times. This monarch counted on a very esteemed servant, a man who, in addition to having been his father's servant, had taken care of him in the absence of his mother. This servant was treated as part of the family and enjoyed the respect of all. For these reasons, the king decided to consult this loyal servant. When asked about his knowledge, the servant humbly replied that he was not a sage, scholar, but had knowledge of the desired message. He shared an experience from his long life in the palace, mentioning a meeting with a master during the time he served the king's father. As he left, the master expressed gratitude by offering him a message written on a small piece of paper. The servant handed this folded paper to the king with the instruction to keep it in the ring, directing him to open it only at dead-end moments. The crucial moment came when the country was invaded, and the monarch's kingdom was under threat. Fleeing for his life on horseback, pursued by numerous enemies, he found himself before a precipice with a deep valley ahead. With no possibility of return due to the enemy blockade, he could hear the gallop of the approaching opponent horses. It was at that moment that he remembered the ring, took out the paper and read the message. She simply said, "That too shall pass." At that moment, he noticed an immense silence around him. Enemies, possibly lost in the forest or following the wrong path, were no longer heard. The king felt deep gratitude to his loyal servant and the unknown master, whose words were truly miraculous. He folded the paper with the message and put it back in the ring. Gathering his army, the king regained his reign, and the city celebrated with song and dance on Victory Day. The king was proud of his deeds, but the elder next to him reminded him that it was time to read the message from the ring again. The king, immersed in the euphoria and joy of the current situation, questioned the relevance of the message in that moment of triumph. The elder explained that the message was not only intended for desperate situations, but also for pleasant moments. It was applicable not only when you felt defeated, but also when you felt victorious. It was not exclusive to the final moments, but also in the first ones. As he opened the ring and read the message, "This too shall pass," the king again experienced the sense of peace and silence in the celebrating crowd. Pride and ego were gone. The king fully understood the message, both good and bad were transitory. The elder reminded him that everything passes, no event or emotion is permanent, just like the cycle of day and night. Moments of joy and sadness are parts of the duality of nature, intrinsic to the very essence of things. One of the essential keys to controlling our emotions lies in understanding and remembering that what we are feeling in the moment will not be eternal. Have you ever met someone who has never experienced happiness or someone who has never faced sadness? In both cases, these emotions do not linger indefinitely. Throughout life, we experience both positive moments and adversity. When we are faced with a sad period, it is beneficial to accept and understand that this sadness is fleeting. Accepting does not imply passive resignation or unrestricted agreement with what is happening. It simply means recognizing that many circumstances are beyond our control. This acceptance drives us to proactivity, making us aware of when we can act or change our situation. In this sense, all our energy and intention must be directed in this direction. However, we must not forget in moments of happiness. It is healthy to enjoy them, but in moderation, avoiding being carried away by euphoria to the point of forgetting that this moment will also be fleeting. Those who neglect this perspective are not prepared to face life's adversities. They live in a bubble that will eventually burst. The key is to enjoy the moment, but always keeping the reality of life in mind. Just as he does not give himself completely to joy in difficult moments, he also does not allow himself to be consumed by uncontrolled sadness. This approach is represented by temperance. Although the previous story dealt only with the emotions of joy and sadness, temperance is applicable to any emotion. No emotion, when taken to the extreme, results in anything positive. However, almost any emotion, when managed in moderation, can bring positive aspects, including negative emotions. Controlled with temperance, they provide valuable learning for our lives. In the words of Seneca, temperance is the virtue that involves the mastery and moderation of impulses and desires, avoiding excesses and deficiencies. According to Epithet, temperance is a pleasant harmony of feelings that arises from a life in which desires are controlled and reason is the guide. Marcus Aurelius adds that temperance is the virtue that helps us govern and direct our passions and desires, avoiding extremes and maintaining a balanced and moderate life.